Your crew keeps making the same mistakes because of this. Have you ever felt like you're fixing the same problem over and over and over again? The same mistakes, the same rework, same quality issues, the same safety concerns, the same conversations. And every time it happens, you think, how do they still not get this? What if that's the wrong question? What if the real question is, why does the same mistake keep getting through the system? Let me say that again. Why does the same mistake keep getting through the system? Because if the same mistake keeps repeating, it may not be a people problem. It may be a leadership system problem. And if you lead skilled workers, manage crews, supervise teams, or run operations, this matters much more than you think.
He's not just a coach, he's a leader of leaders. With over 50 years of real-world experience, he's helped business owners double their profits, build leaders from within, and reclaim their time.
A mentor, an author, and a chief reinvention officer who's guided thousands to lead with clarity, confidence, and impact. Please welcome Henry Chidgey.
Most leaders face three challenges when mistakes keep repeating. First, they focus on the individual mistake instead of the system that allowed it. Second, standards become unclear, inconsistent, or assumed. And third, accountability happens after the damage is done instead of before. So, what's the cost? Quality starts slipping, safety issues increase, callbacks eat profit, customers lose confidence, and I know you know this, leaders become frustrated, and supervisors spend their days putting out fires instead of building performance. The worst part, really the worst part, many leaders begin believing their people don't care, when in reality, their systems are teaching people that the standard is optional. The systems are teaching people that the standard is optional. Now, here's the good news. When you understand what's really causing repeated mistakes, everything changes. Because the solution isn't more pressure, it isn't different people, it isn't more yelling, and it isn't another lecture. It's a leadership system. A system that creates clarity, a system that catches problems early, and a system that builds accountability before mistakes become expensive. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. But before we dive in, if you'd like help leading with more calm, clarity, and consistency, especially during difficult conversations, I put together a free gift called Get Calm, Clear Leadership in 14 Days Without Overthinking Every Hard Conversation. And you can get it at go.henrychidgey.com. Go.henrychidgey.com. Now let's get into it. Over the years, I've worked with leaders across job sites, operations, and businesses, and I kept seeing the same pattern. A mistake would happen, a leader would correct it, everyone would nod, and then a few weeks later, the exact same mistake would happen again. At first, many leaders assumed they had a people problem. But when we looked deeper, we discovered something important. The mistake wasn't repeating because people didn't care. The mistake was repeating because the system wasn't catching it. That realization changed everything, because once you fix the system, you dramatically reduce repeat problems. So, first lesson, stop blaming people, start fixing systems. Repeating mistakes are usually a sign that the system is failing, not necessarily the individual. As leaders, we often ask, who messed up? Who forgot? Who dropped the ball? But the better question is, what allowed this to happen again? Because if a mistake can repeatedly pass through your process, the process is broken. And leadership owns the process. You own the process. Leadership owns the standard. Leadership owns the follow-up. Leadership owns accountability. I once worked with a supervisor who constantly complained about reoccurring quality issues. Every week it was the same conversation, the same correction, the same frustration. And when we started to review the process in detail, we discovered nobody was checking the work until the project was nearly complete. The problem wasn't the workers, the problem was the system. Once inspections and feedback were moved earlier in the process, repeat mistakes dropped dramatically. Now, if you're recognizing some of these patterns in your own team, make sure you grab that free leadership gift I talked about before at go.henrychidgey.com. It will help you communicate more clearly, hold standards consistently, and stop overthinking difficult conversations. So now, let's move to the second lesson. Make standards visible, and I don't mean a poster on the wall. Many leaders believe people know the standard. The truth? Most standards are assumed, not communicated, not reinforced, not inspected. What gets assumed gets interpreted. The crew cannot consistently hit a target they cannot clearly see. So make standards visible, make them specific, make them measurable, make them repeatable. Never ever assume people know what good looks like. So another company I worked with struggled with constant rework. The leader believed everyone understood the expectations. But when we asked employees and when I talked to them to explain the standard, every person described something different. Once the standard was clearly documented, demonstrated, reinforced, and displayed, rework dropped significantly. Not because people worked harder, not because you got new people, but because expectations became clear. Now the third learning. Inspect early, correct consistently. This is where many leaders miss the opportunity. They inspect too late, after the mistake, after the callback, after the complaint, after the safety issue. Strong, effective leaders inspect early, because what leaders inspect, crews take seriously. And when corrections are needed, they happen consistently, not emotionally, not randomly, not depending on who happens to be involved. Consistency creates trust. Trust strengthens standards. Standards improve performance, and performance drives results. That is what real accountability looks like. Not punishment, not pressure, clarity and consistency. And if you're tired of having the same conversations, fixing the same mistakes, and carrying the same frustrations, it's time to stop reacting and start leading systems. Start with my free gift. Get calm, clear leadership in 14 days without overthinking every hard conversation. Visit, as I've said before, go.henrychidgey.com. And if you'd like direct help developing stronger supervisors, building accountability, and creating a culture that consistently performs, book a field-tested free mentoring session at henrychidgey.com. So, remember this, if your crew keeps making the same mistakes, don't ask, why don't they care? Ask, what system allowed this to repeat? Because repeating mistakes are rarely random. They're usually tolerated patterns, and leadership sets the pattern. Lead with clarity, lead with consistency, lead with purpose, and I'll see you on the next one. Become the leader both you and your team deserve. Take care for now.